did request that happen. And so I was asked if I would assist and come back and do some volunteer work just for tonight to moderate the questions and the answers. So with that said, also there'll be members of the City Council who may attend, or other members of committee, commissions, and boards responsible for issuing permits are not allowed to make statements as they're in what's called a quasi-judicial setting. So it would be a conflict for them, so they're not allowed to do that. So this is specifically for the development team and then for the neighborhood, although open to all residents to ask questions. So I'm going to ask folks to raise their hand to ask a question, and then ask the members of the development team to address those questions. And we'd like to keep it brief for the questions. So I'm going to ask that we not have speeches, but that we have actual questions that relate to the plans that you've seen. So based on sort of the rules of engagement, does anyone have any questions on the format? Yes? Yeah.
I don't have a question on the format, but I do have a question.
Yep.
I'd like to see a model. I've seen photos in the Times, but I'm a more visual person. I'd like to see a model.
Okay, that's a good question. We'll hold that. Any questions on the format? I just want to make sure everyone understands how we're doing it. Yes, sir. No question? Okay. All right, thanks. Now I'm going to ask the development team just to introduce themselves, and then we'll start off with the questions. Bill?
Hi, good evening. I'm Sherry DeLorenzo of the partner of Beauport LLC.
Sherry
DeLorenzo.
I'm John Cunningham. I'm the attorney for the project.
Todd Morris, senior professional engineer from Beals Associates.
Sandy Smith, an architect with Perkins & Will.
Vinod Kalikari, I'm a traffic engineer from BHP, Venice Hang and Brunswick, Watertown, Mass.
Okay. All right. So you've seen the drawing, so we'll start with questions. And I also want to indicate at 6:20 we're going to go to 7:30, and then after that, if people have questions that haven't been addressed, or they have second line of questions or want some more details, I think we have some cards. Do we have some cards? Okay. Sheila has some cards, so you can write out the detailed question and put your contact information on the card, and then somebody will get back to you with addressing your question. So does that make sense? Okay. Yes?
Yes, somebody had mentioned that it doesn't have anything to do with the meeting. I'm curious by raising hands how many people from the 1-2 are.
Right. What I'm going to do is entertain questions specific to this project. So we don't have a lot of time. So questions regarding the project. So yes.
I have a question regarding if it's passed with the demolition plan.
And just you could have your name, not address or anything, but just your name. So
Jennifer Dunn. I live right there, so.
Yep.
I want to know what specific steps are being taken to mitigate the risk of potential contaminants, lead, asbestos, fiberglass from becoming airborne. It's very windy down there. I'm afraid stuff's going to blow in my yard. And as a nurse, that concerns me for my little babies, myself, and family, my neighbors. So what are those specific steps that are being taken?
I think that Laura of the engineering firm can address that question and go over the process. We don't have time, and we don't have time for all the details, but we can give you some information about the process.
The various steps that we'll be taking is there will be a licensed site professional, an LSP, will go through the entire building and identify any of those materials that mentioned, plus anything else that would be considered hazardous toxic. Once the location and the quantities of those materials are known, we will develop what's called an abatement. That abatement plan will then be given to an abatement contractor, and depending on where the materials are, what those materials are, the quantities of them, we would have to come up with various plans. It would have to be not only federal, state, but also local standards. One of the techniques to prevent a lot of those materials from becoming airborne, perhaps you've seen this on demolition sites, is that
you're constantly wetting down some of the materials. That helps keep the dust down, especially when we are at where it's extremely windy. So, now let's be in there, take a look at it, identify, log, quantify all the materials and everything that and set up the abatement program. The abatement would have to be done prior to the building being done. Okay, thanks. Another question? Yes, ma'am.
In all these discussions leading up to the permitting process, first step to the city hall, through the city council, the question kept coming up whether anybody's against any hotels, not yet to meet anybody who's in principle against any hotels in Gloucester. So I don't think there ever has been anybody who would be against any hotel. But there have been questions raised from within the business community, but also from within the Ford and certainly from folks along Commercial Street. The question has been raised whether anybody on the applicant side, whether Mr. Cunningham, the engineers, the architects, could you share with the community a solid range of studies which would put anybody's fears at risk that putting a 2- or 3-star private hotel next to a marine industrial ongoing venture including forklift trucks, so that does not sooner or later negatively affect the existing marine industrial businesses who've been there for decades and decades. So could the applicant furnish us, anyone in your team, to the community, including maybe to the Gloucester Daily Times, to the City Hall, to the City Council, a record of studies nationwide for all that came into Canada where such ventures have been assessed 10 years up to the fact, 5 years of the fact, whether they did indeed damage to local business space, were literally next door, across the street, same property line, but the other side of it.
Thank you. We have that question. It's a good question. So, studies, economic studies, that's something that you look at.
Suzanne, I'm not aware of any such studies, but we went through an extensive process, as you know, in the evaluation of the hotel overlay district. And I think, as you accurately stated, I think most people in the community, if not all, feel that a hotel is important and that a hotel in the downtown is important. And the Beauport Gloucester believes that that site is a good site for a hotel and that it will be successful. And I think the experience that Sherry has had at Cruise Port demonstrates that hospitality can coexist, cooperate, work, and succeed with marine industry, with Americold, Roses Marine. They work together all of the time. We're all, I think, excited about the recent events with the arrival of the wind turbine from Varian. So that's an example of how this organization has worked with the businesses in the community, and Americold worked with Varian, Cruiseport worked with Varian, and I think it's just an example that shows that businesses can coexist, and that's utmost in our minds.
Thank you, sir.